Howdy, and welcome to Chapter 4. In Chapter 4, we're going to be talking about job analysis and job design. Job analysis, in my opinion, is the most important function of human resource management. Unless we do job analysis, we can't really effectively do anything else in human resources, such as recruiting and staffing and performance evaluation and training, etc. So it's a pretty important job or task that HR people do. I hope you enjoy the chapter. The learning objectives for Chapter 4 are as follows. So what is job analysis? Job analysis is a systematic process for gathering, analyzing, and documenting information about a job. So it's a process of gathering and organizing detailed information about various jobs within the organization. And we do this so that managers can better understand the process through which they are performed and perform them as effectively as possible. So why do we need job analysis? Why is this so important? It's the most important thing we do in HR. And it's so important because before we can perform any HR function, we need information on basic things about jobs. What's required for each job in the organization. So job analysis is really the building block of all HRM programs. Without job analysis, we could not run effective HR programs, and we also couldn't prove that our practices are legal. So I like this infographic because it says, why it's important. So it's important for recruiting. I can't do recruiting and staffing until I know who I need to hire and what I need them to do and what the requirements are. So I need to do job analysis to figure that out. Evaluation. Okay, how are we doing? How can I evaluate someone if I don't know what they're supposed to be doing? Okay, so how are we doing? It protects the company from regulatory sanction. And what this means is it keeps companies in compliance with laws. Okay, and one particular law that we've talked about is Americans with Disabilities Act. And with this law, we have to establish the essential functions of a job, and we have to prove that what we're doing is job related. Okay, so it's good for ADA, it's good for validity. Okay. It helps us identify and retain top performers and identify bottom performers. So it helps us with performance management. Okay. It helps us with compensation, benchmarking jobs. We have to figure out the compensable factors in a job so we know what to pay people. Okay, so it helps us do that. It also is helpful with career development. That's what all these career development, succession planning, career pathing, training. Okay, so all that also helps us with career development. How do I know how to develop someone's career if I don't really understand the jobs in the organization? So job analysis has 4 steps. So we have to determine first what type of information do we need to collect? And this depends, why are we doing a job analysis? Is this a new job that we have to gather information on because we don't have any? Is this a change to a job? Maybe the job changed due to technology or some other factor. So why are we doing the job analysis? That will drive the type of information. Secondly, how are we going to go about collecting this? We'll talk about several ways we could use observation, interviewing, questionnaires. Third, who will collect the information? We usually count on the incumbent. That's the person currently doing the job. The supervisor of the incumbent. Managers. We also have other places we can go to look for information. The Dictionary of Occupational Titles. We have ONET, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Then we have to, after we've done this, we have to record all this information. How will it be recorded? Typically, it's going to come down to a job description and job specifications. Okay, will be all the documentation I've collected through this particular process. So starting with the first requirement, what type of information are we collecting? So job analysis information can be divided into three categories. We want to collect information about the job content, the job context, and the worker requirements. So the job content is the worker's job activities, or what they actually do on the job. So we can see in this example here, job content would be this person's assembling boxes. The context is the conditions. These are the conditions under which the work is performed and the demands that such jobs make. So the context here is the plant assembly line, and demands could be the person has to stand for a long time, or do they have to lift something? That would be the context. The worker requirements are the qualifications needed to perform the job successfully. What does this person need? Do they need some sort of a degree or certification? So looking a little bit deeper into that, the content, this is what the worker actually does on the job. So we're going to look at what the worker does, the purpose of the action, what tools and equipment are being used, what's the importance of the task, what's the expected performance level, what training is needed. So we're going to gather information about the tasks that are being performed. In the context, we're looking at the conditions under which the work is being performed, the environment. And we'll look at several things. We'll look at reporting relationships. Who's this person report to? Who reports to them? Where does it fit in the context of the organization? What supervision do they get? Are they allowed to use judgment? What authority do they have? Who do they come in contact with? They come in contact with customers, with other employees. What are the working conditions? Is it an office? Is it a factory? Physical demands. Is it in a place where they have to lift things? Do they have to walk a lot, stand a lot? Personal demands. Is there stress? Is there boredom? Is there conflicting responsibility going on? Then we have worker requirements. Okay, so we have to determine what a person actually needs to be successful in this particular job. So we have to determine the knowledge. This is the body of information somebody needs to perform a job. The skill, the capability to perform a learned motor task such as forklift operating, Excel skills, things like that. Ability is the capability to perform a non-motor task, things like communication, math, problem solving. Personal characteristics. This would include conscientiousness, empathy, willing to adapt, flexibility. And credentials, diplomas, licenses, certificates. Do they need a CPA? Do they need an RN? Do they need an MBA? So you can see that there's a lot of information, and it can be really overwhelming. So which information you choose to gather, here again, has to be dependent upon the intended use of the job analysis. So we have to determine how to collect the information. So HR professionals gather information by interviewing workers and supervisors. Okay, I can go talk to people one-on-one. I can observe them, go watch what they're doing. If there are a lot of people in a particular job, I may want to do a questionnaire. Okay. Then there's a couple places I can go that have a lot of information about jobs, one being the Dictionary of Titles published by Department of Labor. But a really great source for this is ONET, or the Occupational Information Network. And we can take a quick look at that. Here's ONET online, and you may want to even go here and look up some things. It's really interesting. If I look for a benefits manager, this comes up for compensation and benefits managers. Tells me what tasks they do, skills, knowledge, abilities, activities, so on and so forth. Okay, so there's just a ton of information here. Interests, work styles. I can go here and see, what the wages are. Just a ton of information. So if I'm doing a job analysis, I'm going to go here probably and tap into this information. And then by interviewing and observing someone, then I can make this sort of personalized to my particular organization. Then once I have all this information, I have to document it. And normally that's done through a job description. Okay. And this can have many purposes. It can be to communicate job responsibilities to an employee. If you've ever gone for a job, they probably gave you a job description. Okay. Recruiting. We use job descriptions for recruiting, for setting up training programs. Okay. So we have the job identification, the job summary, essential functions, or at least that's so important. Job specifications, these are the KSAs needed to perform the job. So these can be quite challenging to create and especially keep them up to date. And this is a survey that I found of 400 people, executives, and they asked them how, in your opinion, what's the greatest challenge in developing job descriptions? 28% said identifying interpersonal skills, which I thought was interesting because that would be quite difficult, I think. The 24% was identifying duties that are essential versus nice to have. Remember, that's really important for ADA, especially, to not put in a lot of things that are not essential. And 24% said accurately describing job duties. Okay, so you can see it can be a bit challenging to do. Normally a job description is like a written out description of a job, but I thought these were interesting. These were some kind of creative ways to communicate a job, and we talk about how some people are more visual learners. I think this is a great way to communicate a job description. So this is one for a senior tax analyst. Okay, this is similar. This is a senior data analyst. Talks about the position, experience, knowledge. So I think it's very visual. I think it's very creative. And here's one for a business analyst. Okay, it talks about business, technical, managerial, and functional duties and skills. Okay. So then the second part of the chapter talks about job design. Okay, so what is job design? Job design is the process of defining how work will be performed and what tasks will be required in a job. When do we need to do this? Okay, we need to do this when we have new jobs. When we have new jobs, we have to make these decisions. How are we going to perform the job? What tasks are in the job? We also have to understand existing jobs and whether they should be revised. Perhaps we need to restructure a job to include new things, or maybe some things are redundant or irrelevant that we need to redesign for. So how does job analysis relate to job design? Because they're very interrelated, although the focus is a little bit different. So to design jobs effectively, the person has to thoroughly understand the job itself, which we gain that knowledge through job analysis. Also have to understand, how does this fit in the unit's workflow? You have to understand workflow analysis. So if we think about workflow analysis, how that works is we have all these inputs coming into an organization. We have raw materials, data, information. We have equipment, facilities, systems. We have human resources, which include the KSAs needed to perform the tasks. So all these come together in some sort of an activity. Okay, this is where the tasks are performed that are required in the production of outputs. And then as a result, we get an output. This is a product, information, or service. So to do job design, we have to know, where's this job fit within this workflow analysis. So when we design jobs, we want them to be motivating. We want people to do a great job when they're doing their job. So some different strategies. One is job enlargement. Job enlargement is broadening the types of tasks performed in jobs. So we would allow someone to do more of the tasks involved in a particular job, which may or may not be motivating. Some people may look at that as being just more work. We could do job rotation, which is where we move someone to different jobs so that they get to do job A today, job B tomorrow, job C the next day. But this may reduce boredom, but may or may not increase motivation. A great theory that does look at putting motivation into jobs is the job characteristics model by Hackman and Oldham. And this is a way of looking at jobs and redesigning them to be intrinsically rewarding. If you remember about intrinsically rewarding things, those are things that we don't get from money and benefits and things like that. It comes more from inside, wanting to do a good job, wanting to make a difference. That's what really gets people motivated. So this model is all about internal motivation. Okay, so how this works, this is the model. How this works is there are 5 core job dimensions. We have skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. So we use these 5 dimensions to create a job that motivates people. Okay, so if we use these things, what happens is we get these critical psychological states. They experience more meaningfulness, more responsibility. They have actual knowledge of results. And if we do that, then we should have some outcomes. We should have high internal motivation, quality, satisfaction, low absenteeism, and turnover. So it's all in how we design the job, because we all want these outcomes. So we design the job to get these outcomes to happen. And what these things mean, skill variety is the extent to which the job requires a variety of skills to carry out the task involved. So how much variety, how many skills can someone use? If a person feels they're utilizing all their skills, they're going to be very motivated. Task identity involves how a job requires completing a whole piece of work, beginning to end. Because if you can see how what you do fits into the whole, you can see it better and it's more motivating. Task significance. Does this have an important impact on someone else? Autonomy. how it allows someone to make decisions. And feedback is a person receiving clear information about performance and effectiveness from the work itself. Okay, that's very motivating. So that brings us back to the model. So you can see how we use these job dimensions by building in these things, skill, variety, task, identity, and so on. We get the critical psychological states, and then we get the outcomes. We can also get motivation through changing jobs for flexibility. Okay, and this involves several different programs. Flex time would be one, allowing people to work flexible hours. Instead of saying you have to be here from 8 to 5, you would allow them some flexibility. It gives people a chance to kind of work in their lives around that. Job sharing. 2 people could share one full-time job. We could have a compressed work week where people work Monday through Thursday 10 hours and have Friday off. Could include telework, people working from home. So all these allow for flexibility in people to determine their own schedules around work, and that can be very motivating for people. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and I hope that you now understand the importance of job analysis, not only so we can perform HR functions better in an organization, but also to uphold legal compliance when issues and problems arise. Thank you.